Now, the Chancellor has been up and he's given his budget to outline plans to help the North Sea oil and gas industry. Philip Hammond will investigate the use of tax incentives to make it easier to operate to sell oil and gas fields, helping to keep them productive for longer. Now, a panel of experts will be set up to examine the issue. The Treasury said its moves would further help the vital industry to meet around half of the UK's primary energy needs. Now, Richard Upshall, he runs OES, which supplies oilfield equipment across the world and bases in the Middle East, Brazil and the US, and right here on Teesside. And he joins me now. And I understand you're in Dubai as we speak, Richard.
Yes, I am. I'm in Dubai at the moment and enjoying some nice sunny warm weather.
So come on, give us your reaction to the announcement for the North East and the government and their intervention.
Well, I think that incentivisation is always going to be a good thing, and I've long talked about the tax system in the UK needing some sort of reform and certainly some sensibility put in there to incentivise global companies to invest. The North Sea has seen some support over the last 2 or 3 years. I believe the government have talked about £2 billion being put back into it, which is an absolute minuscule amount when you think they've probably pulled 250 or 300 billion out in tax revenue just directly from the oil and gas sector over the last 10 years. And I think if they are going to support and incentivise companies to invest in the North Sea and make the UK more and more energy dependent, then that has to be a good thing. And of course, it's going to bring jobs to Teesside and generally to the north of the UK, including Scotland.
Other than tax breaks for oil firms and firms like yourself, what other support would you like to see?
Well, for firms like myself, tax breaks don't necessarily work too much because the incentive is there for the major oil companies not only to invest but also with the decommissioning projects in mind. The sort of support that the service sector needs is really training and to help us keep people in jobs in the sectors. What happens with the boom and bust is that there's a mass exodus of skill sets and people who've invested time and effort in the oil industry, and they just don't come back. And we're right at the beginning of the next boom at the moment. Whatever anybody says, that is the reality. Now, whether it hits this year or in 3 years' time, companies like mine and others in the same sector and in the same boat need help and support now to make sure we retain people within our sector.
Now, do you suspect there might be a little bit of a political card trick going on here with the government, bearing in mind that the Scottish nationalists are mooting a second referendum? Could this be a little bit of a ploy by the government?
Well, of course, there's absolutely no doubt that this is something to try and fend off a Scottish referendum, which is the last thing the government needs when they're facing Brexit, and also discontent in other parts of the United Kingdom as well. Whilst I think, as I said, incentives is a good thing, they need to very clearly look at how they're incentivising people and who they're incentivising. A lot of the super majors have pulled out of the North Sea, and the government has been reluctant to allow them the tax breaks for the investment and the decommissioning side of things. And those costs are going to be astronomical, although at the moment, of course, adjusted for what's changed in the North Sea, in that the actual costs of doing everything up there have dramatically reduced with this downturn. They still need to look at how they're incentivising people going forward and make sure that they're not just appeasing the Scottish nationalists, yes.
Because jobs are a premium in the oil and gas industry here in our part of Wales, Teesside and County Durham and North Yorkshire. Can you emphasise for our listeners how important that industry is for our part of the world?
Oh, it's massively important. So the oil industry is at the cutting edge of a lot of the engineering, and that's everything from mechanics all the way through to the latest technology, whether cloud-based computing solutions, drone technology, robotics, and so on and so forth. The northeast of the UK in particular has always been a hotbed for the manufacturing heavy industry. And as such, the government have a great opportunity here with the North Sea providing a massive amount of energy to the UK to actually reinvigorate it and take a leaf out of, I hate to say it, Donald Trump's book and make people invest if they want to actually try and make money out of the UK. They can do this by sorting out their tax regimes, looking at globalization, looking at companies that are coming in to invest, stop trying to strip profits out of the company as soon as they start to make them, and encourage them to bring more and more, not only of the actual oil and gas infrastructure, but everything else that comes in to support it. Look at companies like Google and Facebook and Snapchat and so on, who are all putting IT hubs in the UK, in many cases the biggest and first that are seen overseas. Why not try and attract yet more investment to different parts of the UK of a similar vein?
Do you see it welcome where you hear chat within sort of Teesside and County Durham and North Yorkshire, where you've got universities like Teesside University, Durham University, you've got the business park in Setchfield, which is full of innovation, working with industry to draw people in and say, look, you've got a creative hub with industry, all pull it together. As an international company, if you were, say, a big exporter or importer, would you want to come to our part of the world?
Absolutely, 100%. The one thing with people from the Northeast, which is why I've hubbed so much of my business there, not just oil and gas, but IT development, sportswear and other things as well, is because there's a real work ethic in that part of the world. There's a lot of loyalty. People want to live in the Northeast. They want to work in the Northeast. And they actually want to get paid well up there as well, not just have this North-South divide. If companies would realise that, they can get massive benefits and cost savings, not just from tax incentives and so on, but just from the cost of living being that much less, that people can afford to live well on less money than they struggle by on in the south of the UK. So 100%, I every day tell people invest in the Northeast. It always is going to pay dividends. People want to live there. They want to be loyal. They don't want to jump from company to company. It's in their DNA from the last 100 years of the heavy industry that's been up there.
Richard Upshall, who runs OES, he's out in Dubai at the moment, took time to speak to us on BBC Tees there.